Hey guys, Kyle, the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for Fire Force Season 2, Episode 9. So, the episode pretty much starts off with where it left off, with our heroes outside fighting with their heroes outside pretty much fighting the pretty much Devil Infernal, which is where we get, in my opinion, one of the greatest expectation subversions in anime manga history, which is Juggernaut getting pierced through the chest, only to learn soon after that the only thing that got destroyed was his uniform. And even though you can just as easily call it out as a death fake out, it's one of those that still kind of works for the ridiculous but oddly still believable enough way it's pulled off. Like the most obvious one being that we've seen what Juggernaut looks like. We've seen what Juggernaut looks like without his uniform on. So there's absolutely no way his uniform actually represents his actual size. But to see the absurd degree to which he layers himself in that uniform is what adds to the believability that he'd survive a hole in the chest, no matter how absurd that might sound, and in general, on top of being one of the more hilarious ways, no matter how absurd that might sound, it still kind of fucking works. Like something within the scope of being revealed that he just kind of layers himself over and over again. It works. It just kind of works. There's no proper way to describe it, but something about what is shown to about him saying I dress in layers, like something as simple but ridiculous as that. It's just you can definitely believe he would that obviously combined with his actual size, you just kind of believe that would be something that would allow him to survive a hole in the chest, like really. Um, And in general, on top of being one of the more hilarious ways in which to subvert the death of a character, I oddly feel just if you kind of dissect that whole scene itself, I think there is a little bit of something that shonen in general could take away in terms of I think there's something just within the scope of that small scene itself that shonen in some way could take away in terms of learning how to properly pretty much use the trope of death fake out in anime, because I speak for everyone when I say that the death fake outs in general in shonen can be they're definitely used a lot, but it's very difficult to execute, and I feel that whether you like whether you like how the death fake out in this case is used or not, it is one of the smarter ways to use a death fake out, I think. So yeah. And yeah, let's talk about the huge reveal that comes with this episode, which is that in order for one to unlock the power of Amaterasu, humans with the power of a Dolburst need to be more or less sacrificed. And with the discovery of the 8 keys that further lift the veil on why the White Clad are looking for the 8 pillars, because they need these 8 in order to serve as the sacrifices. And the thing is, well, you could say that this is very much all stuff that as the viewer we already suspected. It's also one of those things where the further in detail explained, the more horrific and depraved the whole situation becomes, and further serves to show just from how much fanatical the White Clad are. Now, the bigger question is to what degree these people are sacrificed, and the fact that we can hear the pulse of the woman dressed in black leaves so many more possibilities beyond just the idea that she's alive, because at the very end of this episode, we basically learned that we see that pretty much Shinra is basically calling on her in order to lend her power to him, but when we see her say that she can only give 1%, and even if she does, then she will disappear entirely, and so will the forest. That pretty much tells me that the only thing that after someone is sacrificed, the only thing that's pretty much powering them, the only thing that's pretty much powering the Amaterasu, that the only thing that's keeping those sacrifices alive at that point is there Adola enter is there like is their essence or their Adola or their Adola burst enter or the power that's fueling the Adola burst to begin with. That's the only thing that's really keeping them alive. Which, yeah, again, it's a very morbid morbid possibility of just you sacrificing yourself, and the only thing that's keeping you alive is your own Adola burst, is your only Adola link Adola burst power. Which, yeah. Um, with that said, I do see a lot of people kind of calling this episode out largely as filler. And from the perspective of the point I'm going to bring up later, I can understand that point from like a baseline perspective. But the thing is, even if this episode hadn't done the things that most would consider filler, the episode itself, I think, would still probably, I still probably would have gone the pace these people in question that would have gone at the pace that these people in question would want, because the thing when it comes to Fire Force that I think a lot of people need to understand in terms of them calling out something as filler or whatnot is that when it comes to plot development of Fire Force, it is a very slow burning series, no pun intended. Be, just because of the fact that each new bit of the plot given to us is really only a breadcrumb that acts as a clue to the larger narrative of the story. And the reason for that is because when writing Fire Force, it is clear that basically Atsushi Okubo, he treats the tone of the series as a mystery. Like, it doesn't matter how easy it might be for us to figure out. He still wants to give us only bits of information, so only bits of information here and there in each arc, so that when the big reveal of what everything means in the end is finally revealed, that there's enough of a twist on the final conclusion itself to keep us invested. Like that's pretty much that's pretty much so some people may perceive as filler. So when it comes to the anime, I can see a lot of people perceiving this as a lot of what we saw as filler, but even if you take out the filler, it really isn't going to change the pace of the story too much. Trust me, it wouldn't. It would only make the only thing it would do is make the fight shorter. That's really all it would do. But yes, aside from affecting the actual story, yeah, it wouldn't really affect that too much. To be fair, to be honest, like it would still like take its time in building things up. Um, Now, where I do admit this episode did get a little fillery is near the end of the episode, where they were clearly running down time in order to end the. With that said, now where I do admit this episode did get a little fillery is near the end of the episode, where they were clearly running down time to end on the shot of Shinra finally making the Adola link with the woman in black, which, yeah, definitely puts an interesting time crunch on the situation, as Shinra now has to make his attack count. Otherwise, it's over. And I know it's going to make it. I know we all know he's gonna make it anyway and get out of this. But by having that 1 second added, it really adds an element of tension to the situation, both in Shinra's ability to end this whole thing and in terms of what's going to happen to the Force in the aftermath of this. Because if the woman dressed in black is lending him power, then she pretty much said it herself that the Force is going to disappear. So in some ways, like something is going to have to give here. Unfortunately, he's like pretty much Shinra is making a sacrifice. He's making a sacrifice in order to save the animals, but that's also in the process. He's also going to be destroying the forest. So it's like it's a double-edged sword either way. um, Now, the episode. Well, like I said, I'm gonna get into getting into the part that I think people consider filler in this episode. This episode kind of fixed the problem I had last week, which that there was a lot about this fight that was extended compared to the manga. But unlike last week, where I feel the stuff that was extended didn't really add much, this time it not only felt like there was a little bit more weight added to the fight, but the stuff that was extended with the demon made him a much more threatening figure and gave him an even more terrifying presence. Like it basically showed, by extending some stuff in this episode, it showed us that this is someone our characters should fear. And I think a lot of that, what does make it work this time compared to last week, has to do with the scale. Last week there was a whole bunch of Infernals that our characters were fighting, and I think we knew majority of them were just fodder. So it was a little hard to remain invested. Whereas this week is a fight with a singular infernal demon, allowing for greater investment in the fight and the struggle of our characters. And yeah, and again, it helped even more by the moments of the fight that were extended. Um, which on that front is, let's talk about something I haven't talked about much, but Ogun continuously, week after week, has been proving to be everyone's favorite. Like, it's hard to really put into words just how much the man takes the spotlight in every scene he's in, which I can't lie is a problem in the sense of taking from a little bit of shine away from Shinra, but you really don't care because of the amount of epic he's bringing to the table. Like, just the amount of just the tattoo, his old tattoo, just seeing how his tattoos basically enhance his physical abilities. That concept alone, it's very simple, but the way it's portrayed in this episode is just so fucking great. Like it's just such an epic fight. It just creates such an epic weight to the fight. And I think part of that too, is because, well, with Ogun's particular power, you can clearly because it enhances his physical strength. We obviously know that there's a limitation to it. So there's a limitation to how far he can push his own body. So when he does finally reach that limitation, it's like, oh, we kind of get a little fearful. Like, okay, is this the end of it or not? So yeah. But yeah. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and list to Crunchyroll. Dead Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, guys.